I went down to Goshen, get stuff from John Deere. Covered it both sides.
All right, are we ready? Oh, well. Okay. All right, great. Let's call the August 17th Town of Rochester ZBA meeting to order and start with the pledge. The flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry.
Okay. Paul,
Ian Jerome,
present.
Charlie Fisher, Ken Stevens, Clayton Hogan,
Present.
Harley Davis.
Okay, great. So for the first time in a while, we have more than one thing on our agenda. So we'll start with a continued application, 258 Whitfield Road. You guys want to come up? Come sit up at the table. Will you tell me how to pronounce your last name so I don't? Quenimode. Okay. I was
Think of
close.
it as a KW.
Okay, great. Quenimode, and you're Rachel.
Yes,
Okay, great.
my husband lived in this. It's really heavy garden home. I'm here with Frankie playing this week, so he's home putting up sweet corn.
Oh, in
Minnesota.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay, so we met, I guess, 2 months ago. Your son was here. We went over the initial application. Basically, this is the application for a garage that's needs to be, or what you guys are saying is that it needs to be closer to the property line than is allowed with the setback in the zoning. Just to refresh everyone's memory, the lot is about 1 acre. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot in R2. And at the last meeting, we had a bunch of questions that we put in a letter that we sent to the applicant. The applicant has responded in pretty good detail to all of the questions we asked. So I thought we'd start by just having you just present quickly, since we just heard secondhand through your son what y'all are thinking of doing. And then there'll be some questions probably from the board, and I know I have some questions. So, but you can have the floor first.
You don't want me to go through all of our long pictures.
I don't think you need to, just
You can bring up what you want to talk more about. So high level.
yeah, just like
Okay, and I see that projected up there is the layout of the acre. And you asked us to maybe show what the setback would be all the way around. We were a little confused about what the setback should be in front. It was 35 or 40, so we don't know. Obviously, with a house in the middle of a 1 acre lot, there isn't a lot of room on any side. So taking a tip from my grandkids, I made a to scale little green thing to move around so you could place the garage in different places around. But what you'll see, the north side is where we would place it. And you see the green
north
little
is just the
square.
top of the paper.
The top of the paper, yeah. And adjoining the property line is actually a little bit of space full of brush and trees and olives mostly. And then a maybe 6 to 7 foot berm that is the edge of this pond that sits north of us. So we had hoped, we only have, I'm not sure, got it on here to scale, but 6 feet into that brush. So we were hoping we could pull the garage back into within 28 feet there. In part because nobody can see the back. And nobody will ever build on the pond or on the burn. And the front end is protected from the road by other trees. So the property has water problems. And the person we bought it from, the contractor, really did a good job in building a moat essentially all the way around. So those lines right inside that go around show the existing drain lines that we were told both by the builder and by our inspector. Don't mess with those. You start putting asphalt or even sidewalk over some of those, and you're gonna have drainage problems running back to the house. Now, been carefully pushed off to the west. It's pretty impressive. He did a good job. So the other thing you don't see from the flat layout is that the house sits on the high part. Whitfield Drive, the Whitfield Road drops into our driveway. We're going to put a rain garden out in front because it's right now you need duck shoes to walk through there because of all the rain. And then we're just doing more water containment. So as we went looking for a spot to put a garage, the green spot is the only spot that's at the level of the house. Everything else falls back from there into what's right now a little river running both on the north side and the west side of our place. Our lawn service, we try to keep them from mowing after a big rain because they're tearing it up. So, and they got stuck twice back in this one. So to be perfectly honest, we go through in some detail all the places that we looked at, and we don't think there's another place. And the turnaround, you suggested several things that we weighed. The turnaround where it would go if the garage was flush with the paved drive, the turnaround would sit over the drainage system and into that what will be a rain garden. So, you know, we'd like to have come back and said, boy, you had a great idea and we think that'll work. And we don't have one. So, you know, it's an odd lot. There is a tuck under, they called it a tuck under garage when we bought it. I drive a Toyota Avalon. If I fold in the mirrors and I take a couple runs at it, I can get in there. I'm not so, my husband can drive in without even almost thinking. He's a farmer, you know, he's been driving things into small spaces for a long time. So, and it pulls out, big barn doors that pull out. It's a great shop. It's a great shop, that walkout or that. But we really hope we can find a way to get a garage. I can try them too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. And I mean, I know I appreciated the response to the questions. I had a few things that I wanted to talk about, but I'd actually prefer if anyone else on the board has anything. Troy, did you have anything?
The turnaround that you have, looking at the house on the road on the right side, is that where the garage is?
Exactly.
Right where that is.
Yeah, it actually goes back a little farther than where we'd situate the garage. But we just, it's so dangerous going in and out of our driveway. It's that we just put a turnaround there and we got grandbabies coming in and out of there. That's it.
That's the only thing I have.
Thank you.
Real quick, it says here 28-foot area variance. Is that you have 12 feet between where the garage is going to be and the property line? Is that what you're saying? Or is there going to be 28 feet? You have 12, or you need 12 feet?
Well, we felt that the minimum, you notice we said 24 to 28, and we didn't want to push it, you know. The 28 would be instead of the 40. So the 28 is off of, so the 12 would be what we would be
Okay.
granted.
So that
Yes.
translates to a 70% variance then. That's why I guess the question. And this is based on a 24 by 24 garage.
Yeah.
So I know, wasn't there a number mentioned that was going to be a little larger last time?
No, we've been wanting 24 by
We talked about some, we talked about some
Okay.
smaller sizes. And I think it's 30% because she was, I think what Rachel just said was it was the flip of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There will be 28 feet.
There's still going to be a remaining of 28 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
it's a 12-foot
Yeah.
variance.
backwards.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard,
So, yeah,
percentages of,
50%.
like. Carly, did you have anything? Ken?
No, but thank you for the detailed responses to the questions posed in that.
Okay, so I had also farmer, I knew it was 1 acre, and I was looking at your map and I was looking at just the setback lines on it. So I think that's still up. And I was just kind of eyeballing, and it looked from your setback lines that the property would be about 160 feet by 160 feet. Just like with the amount that the 40-foot setbacks are projected on there. But 160 times 160 gives you a half acre, not a full acre.
Well,
So then I was like, okay, something weird is happening. Because I was like, either the scale's off.
the scale is off.
Or something.
because I did from this. This was,
Right.
we had a surveyor do this.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was having a real hard time trying to figure out what the scale would be on the
Yeah.
thing that, or he
Yeah.
sent us a
So
standard.
I
brought
definitely-
this in case it would be.
that might be helpful. Can you pull up the 2 documents that I sent you? This 40 plus 24 plus 20. Yeah. So I went on Ulster County Parcel Viewer, which has a not entirely accurate, but pretty useful distance measuring tool. And I guess I'm like,
Too, and I was clumsy.
it seems like maybe you don't need a variance. So what this map is showing, and this is, we need to or you probably need to go out there with an actual tape measure with the property line mark.
We did.
So what this is showing, and again, this is not entirely precise,
Right.
but this first dot that's closest to the pond, that's basically at your property line. And then the second dot coming towards the south is, and it's the tip of that point, is 40 feet in from the property line. And then the third dot is 24 feet from that dot. So the third dot is 64 feet from your property line. And then the fourth dot is 84 feet.
So that's,
And then if you pull up the next one that I put in here, this shows that if you project the 24 by 24 garage, you can have the back edge of that garage 40 feet from the property line, and the south side of the garage, closer to your driveway, would be 20 feet from your driveway.
boy, that's so different. Rick was
Yeah.
out there stepping it off and then laid it out.
Right.
One of
That's
the
why I
things-
wanted to figure it out, because
I that would be good news to us,
Yeah.
obviously. But when the surveyor came in, his line was actually closer. We had less of that than we anticipated.
yeah,
It's just kind of skewed. So,
Right.
and he found several different, he calls them something that, yeah, that had been moved around out here. So we actually shared this with a neighbor because our neighbor to the south didn't have a survey done. She bought it either.
yeah.
So if you believe that's correct and our just clumsy measurements are wrong,
Yeah.
we'd be happy to hear that.
I certainly don't think you're being clumsy, and
Oh, we
I
were, and drawing the maps was just.
but I think, I mean, from where I'm sitting, it seems like there's 2 things we can do. One is, I think probably this board would feel ready to schedule a public hearing and just move to the next step in the variance process. But the other thing we could do is ask you to maybe dig a little deeper into where exactly that property boundary is, because this suggests that even if these measurements are not entirely accurate, which I'm not putting a lot of faith in the precision of this online
Well,
tool.
we like those.
Yeah, but it suggests that you actually have some wiggle room that.
Can I just suggest something, since we work with those maps all the
Yeah.
time, you know, I'm a professional engineer.
Yeah.
I'm just a surveyor. And you can almost count
the record.
on the property lines
Sorry, Madam.
that they got off of the tax map do not line up with the aerial photos.
Right,
They're 2 different databases. They try to put them together, and you cannot rely on that for measurements. I just want to point that.
No, sure. No, I agree. But I do think that if you had the property flagged, just
It's
the,
right now flagged right at that point in. The surveyor left a post with a red flag on it because we anticipated having to measure the posting.
yeah,
So I could go out there tomorrow and measure in, but because we have that flag there, my husband actually measured from that and said, boy, it's gonna be tight. So it's, you
yeah,
know, you'll also notice that on that other one we looked at, it looked like our land was in a flood code.
right, yeah, that was off, right, that's,
That was clearly off because the pond, half the pond looked like you could build a
Yeah.
house on.
it just seemed like and maybe it's just the projection that you did in this hand-drawn copy, I mean, actually, can you, do we have a scale copy of this in your file? Okay, oh, we have one.
Well, no, it was awkward to
Oh, it's
send.
shrunk.
So what the surveyor sent us.
So
is
1
a
inch is
scanned
30.
version that I printed out.
Do we have a ruler?
Sorry if they could go through this.
Yeah, this is what our,
Trying to work on the kitchen table, you know,
no, yeah,
Very easy to lose track of actually. how many feet
What the
covering
scale
the
is.
bases and stuff.
Oh,
Trying to
yeah.
walk things. You
Mm-hmm.
can gain a foot or lose a foot.
it was just that the acre thing seemed
Didn't add
so
up.
far off that I was like. Yeah, so this. This says you've got like 2.5 inches from the property line to your driveway, an inch is 30 feet, that's 60. That's 75 feet. Which is about what I was getting.
so if we want 24 plus as much as we can for turnaround in front of it. Which would be.
So you take away 40 feet out of 75, that leaves you at 35.
So we'd have 10 feet on.
To the edge of the driveway, but then
Yeah.
the driveway width itself, which is 15. So I would like, we can do both things. We can schedule this for a public hearing and you can go back and
Investigate
try to,
further, yeah.
yeah, because even just on this scale, like with the, sorry. With the actual to scale, this is saying your setback is like a little, I mean, I think I don't know. It's just like, it felt a little off,
Well, to go from that size to that other one.
right? You're
transfer-
adjusting. Yeah, because like this, to me, would put your setback, much closer to the back edge of where you've got the proposed garage than where your line is on here. Because if it's 1 inch to 30 feet, then it'd be 1 1/3 inches, which is a little more than a 1/4 inch. And, it's kind of like halfway between your two lines. You're the back side of the proposed garage and the red. So I just I think we can probably schedule this for a public hearing and move it forward on that front. But also it might be that you could get it so that it was like 6 feet encroachment instead of 12 feet.
So
which
what I
also
can
makes
do tomorrow, because that post was left there on purpose, so
Mhm.
we would know exactly where the edge of the property is. Get Rick on FaceTime and measure it out all from the post all the way to the driveway and just see
Yeah.
what I have.
And you have like a 200-foot tape measure?
I think
You could
Gary
get one.
can get one for
Yeah.
me ourselves.
Sure, it's not.
So, and he'd probably come over and help, but
Yeah.
that's a pretty easy check
Mhm.
and it's within my abilities.
And you said the place where you have the flag is this, where it says set rebar? Or it's?
No, it's, the rebars, I think he put on the farms. He just added a separate flag with a red top because he knew.
You were
we
gonna want to
wanted
measure it out.
put a production.
Yeah,
So it's just sitting there out in the bushes
yeah,
and
and that's the property line.
that's the problem.
Yeah, and if that's from a surveyor, that's accurate, to Barry's point, it's not, yeah, the aerial view, completely agree. It seemed off so much that I thought it was worth.
Yeah,
Looking
no,
into
we
it.
appreciate that, and I'm kind of hoping I'm going to be happy when I measured.
Yeah,
But
because
if
one of
not,
our
then it
jobs,
was on the route with the hearing and
yeah, so one of our jobs is also to just make, if we are granting a variance, that it be the minimum possible
Right.
to achieve your goal. And I think that with all this stuff with the drainage and the water and the layout of the property, like, I think it sounds like this board feels there's not a lot of other options, but maybe the amount of variance can be shrunk or
instead of 12
even,
at 6.
right, which is, instead of 30%, then it's like, 12% or something like that, which makes a difference. Okay, so does everyone feel comfortable like with that slightly open-endedness, scheduling this for public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that. Is there any discussion, Ken? I see you looking quizzical.
Yeah, I'm just thinking ahead of how actually resolve the variance that we're gonna be giving,
Or might,
might be giving, or being asked to.
yeah, being
And
requested.
just trying to think of how that could be changed, but yeah, no objection.
I should be able to call with that measurement tomorrow or
Yeah,
Monday.
take some pictures, draw a fresh map with, and if that changes anything,
Perhaps, but
or
I
even
could
just,
even maybe plot it in on this and bring it in.
yeah, it could just be linear too. You could just say like, just be a line, property line, X
That would be
feet, back of the garage, like it doesn't have to be the whole.
It's really one big measurement that I need, and that
Right.
is from the red flag.
To the
To the
driveway,
driveway.
and then, right, and then if you take away the 40 next to the property line, and you
follow.
get what you need for the turnaround and how much do you have to go in. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor of scheduling the public hearing at our next meeting, which is, sorry, I'm bad at this. We're gonna look it up. It's September something in the teens. September 21st. Not in the teens. Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll send out, just so you know, notices get sent out to your neighbors within 500 feet. So they might ask you, and then we'll have the public hearing. We'll have to do the seeker before we open the public hearing, but that was good. And yeah, if you got anything new, send it to Jasmine and she'll send it to the rest of the board.
That's it, measuring.
Thanks so much. I hope it's a drier corn harvest in Minnesota than it looks like. it is here.
Yeah, it will be. You're getting some of our rain.
Great. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your night. Okay, we have, next up, we have a new application. There's actually a free application. The estate of Norman Gray. It's not applicant. How are you tonight? Okay, so this is a pre-app. So at this point, so the board knows, we don't have a completely finalized application. Applicants here to just chat with us, see what things might be needed, general questions, so that when and if there is a final application, we can move it forward quickly. Terry, do you want to explain a little bit about what you're trying to do?
What I'm trying to do is there's 2 homes on one piece of property, and it's below 4 acres, it's 3 acres actually. My father's house and my trailer, they both have their separate wells, septic, the whole 9 yards, electric, address. And I'm just trying to divide the trailer off a small section so I can sell his property. Or what, the trailer's been there like 38 years. It's been there before this 4 acre thing came in. And I've lived there all this time, and I really don't feel that I can get up and move at this point in my life. I have no place to go. And that's been my home these years.
So the basic situation is the bulk lot size requirement in this zone is 2 acres, we've got a 3-acre lot, so you're looking to subdivide the lot into 2 in order to keep,
Well, it doesn't have to be perfectly.
no, it doesn't have to be exactly in half,
Small
but
as I can get here.
into 2 parcels instead of 1.
Instead of one.
And then, in order to sell 1 parcel and retain the other parcel for yourself. You said there's separate wells and septics.
Oh, yeah.
So a few things just to go over. I think Jasmine already communicated some of this, and I know I communicated some of it, but because the property is currently held by an estate, the estate has to be the applicant. So you can,
She didn't never call back. I've called her all week.
the attorney,
Yeah, the attorney,
Okay.
she never called back.
yes.
Sent nothing.
So, but that's just like when, in order for it to be an official application, it will have to be through the estate. So the estate could authorize you to act as their applicant, like you could get a letter from the
Well,
whoever.
I'm the executor of the will.
You are
I
the
take care
executor.
of everything.
I was gonna say,
far
what if
as
you
it
just fired
goes
this attorney?
No, excuse me.
Seriously.
You're the executor of the
Yes.
estate.
So you are
Your advisor.
Right.
You have to stand.
So I'm not.
So, okay,
You definitely have to, when you
You
put
have to
in
write a
the
letter.
application, you just submit it as the executor, and if you submit it with the will.
I never said anything about my lawyer and
Yeah,
No, right.
Okay, so maybe it was a misunderstanding about.
well, it said the owner of the property is the estate
Yeah,
of, and on the application, it just has to match up. That-
yeah, that's all. It's-
If
no,
you're-
it's just a matter of.
So if you're
what I
the
wrote down.
executor, that means you have the legal authority to
Yeah.
apply. We just need to have that.
Yeah, we've never
Just
done
written
anything
down.
like this
Yeah, I know.
before, so.
I'm just
We're
saying,
trying,
yeah, I just
We have a,
don't make the money that.
so we have a
Shouldn't make.
form.
And they're all
You have it printed.
2 more years.
So Jasmine
I
said,
can get that paperwork.
yeah, she's got a form. She can print the form even,
I can
do you want to do it right now?
copy.
And then she can give that to you so that you have that. So that was one thing.
That's right.
The other thing, I just want to make sure that you're very clear on is even if this board does grant a variance, it still has to go to the planning board for subdivision approval. And because the variance and the subdivision are sort of linked, a lot of the information that you're going to need for the planning board, we're going to need that too, because we have to do the basic environmental impact assessment called seeker. So we're going to need more stuff than what you've submitted so far. So we're going to need probably where you're planning on putting the line between the, when you hope to subdivide it, like information on the wells and the septic, just where they're located.
They're in there from the first map that I did.
Yeah, well, so we'll probably need more, like, I don't know, it'll probably have to be done by a surveyor or engineer to lay it all out. Because when there's new property lines drawn, there's new setbacks, like we need to identify if there's any other things that are gonna come up further down the road so that we can assess them as part of the process. So that'll have to happen as part of the variance, and then when and if you get a variance, then you'll have to also apply to the planning board. You can, if you choose, apply simultaneously to both boards, but if you're applying through the planning board and then this board doesn't give you a variance, you're just kind of out of luck and you would have spent time with them. On the other hand, you know, this process is going to take probably at least 2, probably 3 more meetings. And then you would have to go to the planning board, which they're also going to take at least 2, maybe 3 more meetings, depending, right? So it does have the potential to make it go faster if you do them simultaneously, but it's a little more risky to you because if this one doesn't
I
pan
can't
out,
do it. I don't have the money.
right?
The idea is to divide it
So that you
so
can
I
sell
would
it.
have money to do something.
Yeah.
Can't live on $1,200 a month and
Yeah.
do all this.
You know, we understand that. We just,
So I want to sell everything on shop.
well, that's why I want to make sure you understand the process, because you know, as much as I think as human beings feel sympathy for that situation, we can't modify the process for those reasons. So it's important to me, and I think to the rest of the board, that you just understand that timeline so that if it does impact you financially, that you're able to make decisions for yourself where you have that information about the time.
Yeah, we need to. Go over that.
Yeah. Did you guys look through the application? Is there anything that jumped out to you that you want to bring up at this stage?
Yeah. How far is the trailer from your, excuse me, from your property line?
From my property
Yeah, on
going into it or from coming from the other home?
coming, no, at the other end of where your trailer is,
Mhm.
to your property line to your neighbor
Oh,
on
my
the other
gosh.
end. Property.
That's,
So you're saying like
It's-
the left side of the screen there.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I got it on the other map.
Because that's going to be that 40-foot setback situation.
That could be another variation.
Could be another variable. Oh, we don't have a copy of that, I don't think.
This is not mine.
Well, we can probably get it.
It belongs to my neighbors.
Oh, okay. But it has like the corner of your property.
They're well beyond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could tell you that we had one of those walk-in
It's like
things.
90
Trust
some
me, we-
feet.
Okay.
Okay, that's good news.
And the septics, you know about where they
I know
are.
exactly where they are.
Well, yeah,
All
I
of them.
can, you know, once, not in this meeting, but we can have some back and forth with Jasmine. I can talk to our attorney about exactly what we need in terms of locations and, you know, I don't want to make it take
I
longer
have them
because.
written out, no, I think my father's, he wrote his out where his well and septic are located.
Yeah,
That I did find
uh-huh.
in his paperwork, and mine, you can physically see.
Yeah, so anything like that, so you've got even like pictures that you take on, you know, a digital camera or someone's phone. You can email that to Jasmine and she'll get it in our file. And then any papers you have, we have a scanner here. So if you come in when the office is open, you know, we understand you want to keep originals. Jasmine can scan that stuff in so that we have it in the file.
So you're not losing your originals.
And so you're not losing the originals. And I can, you know, chat with our attorney about just exactly which things we're gonna need so we can get you some more of that information ahead of the next meeting. Should be able to do that on Monday. Get you a more complete list. But then for the next meeting, you'll have to, you know, pay the application fee.
Yeah, I have that today.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. So you can also wait, you know, until we give you that list.
This turn.
It's not holding up.
It's not holding up at this point.
So you have some things that, you know, you need to get to us.
Okay.
Mhm. Do you have any questions that you want to ask us? Because that's part of what this pre-application meeting is for. So that you can
Yeah,
ask
what-
us to.
What we're trying to do is we understand variances with 3 acres versus 4 acres. We just trying to somehow make it as easy as possible, like you said, you know, even if it was a half acre for her place. You know, we're just trying to get it.
You want to draw a clean line.
Yeah, you know, because, you know, she's been living in there for over 30 years. I can't clean out another house.
So we can't advise you on how to make those decisions. You know, there might be, you know, might be worth talking to a professional about how to draw a line that would
Yeah.
minimize impact. You know, you could ask them that. That's probably going to cost you some money, but it probably would be helpful because we're going to need, you know, and the planning board is going to need a map that shows where the line would be. Yeah. So you're going to probably have to talk to an engineer. You might have to get a survey. Like, I don't know exactly what you'll, but those are things that you'll have to do. And a professional who knows, they can look at our code, they can make recommendations about what they think would be the best. We can't do that.
Okay.
We can talk to you. I mean, I think the reality is we've already got the two,
Yeah.
we've already got the 2 homes. So you're not talking about building a new home.
No.
So it's not increasing the density of residences. You've already got 2 septics and 2 wells. So you're not proposing something that's going to increase water use or septic use. Right. So you're just like, the lots are too small. It's pre-existing, those are all just facts.
Yeah.
And you have reasons now why you want to change the property line. So
That was like 30 years ago, and now,
if this was like
you
vacant,
don't think of certain things back then.
well, the zoning didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And if this was
now we're
vacant
thinking.
Yeah. If it was vacant and you were like, we want to divide it in half and then we're going to build 2 new houses and then we're going to
Yeah.
that would be a higher impact situation.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would recommend just in general terms
Mhm.
to consult a professional. You might even be able to have an initial meeting where you just can get a sense from them of what.
Yeah,
There's other resources, maybe even real estate agent,
yeah.
give you advice.
I'll ask my niece.
Rebecca.
In regards to. I don't
Free
know,
consultation.
I might consider selling that
Okay.
thing. And then
But
rent
don't call me until after Labor Day anyway.
Okay, do you folks have any other questions you want to ask us?
Oh, yeah.
It's the novel boundary fence again.
Yeah, feel-
Monday through Friday.
Feel free, and I can also hop back on the phone with you and I'll circle back with our attorney just to make sure that it sounds like, the biggest thing that I want just on a human level is that there not be any surprises in the process
Yeah,
so that you guys can make an informed decision about what you want to do before you're like 3 months in and then there's a whole new thing that no one has.
pops up that.
We want to try to avoid that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming, and yeah, don't be shy about reaching out if you have any more questions. No, we're not. Good night. Okay, our next applicant is Bone Hollow LLC.
That'd be nice.
Okay, so, yeah, well, we have 4. We have a 4. Yeah. So this application came to us for a fence variance.
Yes.
So Bone Hollow LLC is the owner. You're
Yes,
the
that's correct. I am the full and only owner of it.
great.
And this is a house that really bought for rental, but my daughter lives in it with her husband and a little toddler. And we're getting really worried about the toddler running out to the road, so we need to do some fencing. This is on Clay Hill Road, just as it comes off of Sampsonville Road. And cars come flying off the Sampson Road and drive by here pretty fast. So that's one of the purposes, is just, to retain the yard, so the daughter doesn't run out the highway. The other one is to provide some privacy. Now, the problem here, this is, I think it's 0.6 of an acre lot. It's very small. It's, it's well over 100 years old. And if you lay out the right-of-way line in the road as prescribed in your code being 25 feet, the house is within that.
Okay, so that was actually the biggest question I had, was like, I was a little confused about, and I don't think we have a copy of that.
No, we don't have that.
Somehow it didn't get to us, but
I submitted 3, I believe.
Oh, they are in the folder, they're not.
oh, it's just not
I don't,
scanned in.
I didn't get it. So if you could
Okay, so
email
you
me
can
a
keep
copy.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
I just need a
You
PDF.
would say, I saw that.
Okay, well,
They
you
are
can
in the
keep that. Sorry, here. You have one there.
There's another one on front, I think.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, we have
we have
4,
a
in
whole-
fact.
We have a few.
You guys good with one?
You did planning board requirement.
Yeah.
25. For the planning board, 25.
I don't know what to do with them all, but
Motion to put that on top of it. Okay, so sorry, so assume right away from the center line of the road.
Yeah, let me,
Yeah.
just describe the property. So as I said, this is, just in off of Samsonville Road. You know, the next property over is the triangle piece. As you head to the west there, there are houses, the one in the back you can see, the garage there, that's actually on the property line. And all the other, the houses are all very, very close together. This is all, this is what I refer to the hamlet of the talk.
Yeah.
And so this house that, that we have here is, you know, it's anywhere from 25 to maybe 20 feet from the center of the road. So it's right there, and I brought some pictures too. Let's see what's a good one to pass it around. Here. This one. Oh,
They just
we got two of these. Or actually, this is probably the better one. Look at the setback. So the
Not better.
what's that?
I didn't-
Oh, really?
I don't think you have to reduce stuff.
You did
No,
take those
no, I
shrubs
think
out of there.
No, we don't want to. We're gonna keep the hedgerow there and basically just fill in between the house and the hedgerow on the one side, we'll have a 40-foot section. And then on the other side, have 100 feet, which just blocks off the whole big yard area. And
Down to the drive.
the driveway's no fencing over there. So you can, I labeled on here the fence. Sure.
Yeah, I see on the map. Barry, was this?
See, there's a fence from here to here. So this is open right now. And the hedge is gonna stay there. And the fence will be at the back end of the hedge. And then we're gonna put a fence from here out to the property line, which will, is just a big open area. You can see it here. The fence would be here. The other fence is, if you see this picture, would be in here.
And this is 10 feet approximately from the edge of the fence to the edge of the road
Yes.
on both fences. Is there any way to
Yes.
step that back to this line?
Well, as you,
Less than the variance.
you take, you know, they got such a small lot area here. We could step it back more, but who really benefits from up to highway superintendent, and he had no problem with the place. There's plenty of room to plow snow. And then if you push it back further, then, you know, it's gonna have to jog back out to the hedgerow. So, you know, the practical sense is to put it along the hedgerow and it's at the back end. So if we were to push it forward, you know, we would have to have another 90-degree turn to it, which I think aesthetically would look very nice. By
So,
the way, this is the style. It's point for us.
We did see that.
yeah, that would. So Barry, was this the same? Was there like a bed and breakfast application for this a couple years
Yes.
ago? That's not the use anymore now. It's
Yes,
just
and it's hasn't been used because
Okay.
COVID came immediately after that.
right.
And then my daughter, who was living there, she has a child now,
Yeah.
so
So it's just a house.
never
now.
happened.
So we don't have to worry about that old site plan or anything.
No.
Okay. I remembered this property. and I
Does
just
it have to do with it's wrong at all?
No, I did. I actually asked Mary Lou about that, and she said it doesn't, it's kind of irrelevant as long as that use isn't happening. So
Well,
I
it's
just
two
want,
separate things. It's
Yeah.
a fence, you know, like.
but it doesn't require like a site plan amendment or anything
No. it's an
because
area
you're not
variance.
using it.
The special use was a use,
Right, right.
special use permit for that.
Yeah. But I just wanted to clarify that for,
Yeah, no,
Our
hasn't been used,
record and
there's no
all that.
intention to use.
great. Okay, so saying the reason for the fence is to prevent the toddler from running out, the variance, and also to just create a little more privacy from the road.
Great privacy, yes.
And the setback, the way the code is written, you count the 25 feet from the center line, then you count 10 feet from that, so it's 35 feet from the center line.
And that would put the fence like right at the
Yeah.
front door.
Okay, so I guess the next question is why a 6-foot fence instead of a 4-foot fence? which is
Just
allowed?
privacy from the traffic and that, we went out and looked at a 4-foot and it just doesn't provide any privacy really at all. In the 6-foot just, and you know, the top, we've got a nice looking fence for the top of it, it's a nice lattice work. Not look like a large fence. Because my neighbor has a 6-foot fence, not all the way up to the road, but along the whole property line. There's a 6-foot fence in the back, there are buildings up against that are more than 6 feet high. So you know, the 6 foot is not out of character at all with all the neighboring uses.
Charlie, did you have?
Yeah, that 6-foot fence, is that the top of the lattice?
Yeah, to the very top.
Okay.
Well, I think it's the top of the caps.
Okay.
Thank you. Clay, do you have any?
You said the fence, you said to the front door.
Well, if, you know, if we were to comply with the code, that's how far back you have to push it.
Yeah, where like the sidewalk comes in, basically.
Yeah, it would go all the way back to the sidewalk.
Was there any concern about? You're not putting out there. And it'll attach to the house?
Yeah, it'll go from the house into the hedgerow on the south side. And then on the north side, it would come off of the house. And we put a gate in there so we can get in the yard. And it wouldn't run all the way up to the corner, which is, you know, heavily wooded area in here too.
Harley, do you have any?
Not right now.
Ken?
No,
Okay, so a few things I just want to like highlight that jump out at me looking at the map is, and Barry, you pointed this out too, the house doesn't meet the setback. So we've got a historic older home that way predates zoning. The house itself is like half of it's within the required setback, basically. When you do that 10 foot. So, right, like just to character, you're not doing anything that's more, you're not proposing to do anything that encroaches further into the setback really than the house.
Well, the fence doesn't have to meet the zoning setback requirements. And it's a special setback for, I think it says any structure.
Well, yes, 6 foot fences have to meet the setback, 4 foot, anything
It
below.
doesn't have to be like if you got a 40-foot front yard, it doesn't have to be 40 foot back. It's only 10 feet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
only a
right,
10
right.
foot setback.
For 6 foot fences.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what Sam was trying to get at.
Right.
If it was more setback, then the height wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Right, if you were 10 feet, yeah. Okay, are there things that people want to see? Like, do we have things, does anyone have anything you want the applicant to submit before we move this forward?
The total length of the fence on the front.
There'd be a 100-foot section and a 40-foot section.
I guess the one other thing that, just looking at the map again, jumps out, I think it was Charlie asked about bumping the fence back on the side where you've got the hedgerow. I guess that's to the south of the house. What you said kind of makes sense. You'd have to have these extra turns, but on the north side of the house, what's the reason for not just keeping
continuity along the road, travel road.
the same distance?
Yeah, it's the same distance, and if you go out to the property, you know, there's trees there, it just looks like the natural place to put a fence. And then if you push the fence back any further, who benefits? You know, there's no benefit to anybody. And then by pushing it back, you're taking away from the yard, which is quite small as it is.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So I feel okay scheduling this for a public hearing. Also,
Second that.
oh, well, I move that we schedule it for a public hearing at our September 21st meeting. Harley seconds. Anyone have any discussion on that? Everyone feels good? Okay, so all in favor of that?
I have not submitted. I want
Okay, let's try to do a clean vote on that. All in favor of scheduling the hearing for the 21st? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone? What is it? Not dissenting, abstaining, thank you. Okay, no abstentions. Okay, great. So I don't think there's anything we're asking
Or
for.
I don't need to, during anything for the public hearing, you guys do all that, notices and that.
Yeah, we do all the notices. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to be here really if you don't want to. But
Well, I'll be here.
All right, great. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
If you do have a stamp, like digital copies of these and this
I'll have it
already,
ready.
yeah, that's easier than we don't have to. We have an ongoing scanner delay,
Yeah, no,
which
we
is
can do that.
inexplicable.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks.
Wait, let me reorganize all the papers. You guys, we've got those maps. There's those. Okay. Doesn't folder much. Okay, so our next application is the Friendly Acres Homeowners Association. Got some folks here. We voted to schedule the public hearing. Okay, welcome. Do you guys mind just introducing who everyone is? So
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm Wendy Wallace Page. I'm the president of the Friendly Acres Homeowners Association.
And I'm George Jacobs, and I'm the vice president of the property manager.
okay,
And I'm Yula Markov, I'm just a resident.
okay. So I guess I want to just start by like, I was kind of confused by this whole pack. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is just try to understand the whole chain of events that brought us here, and maybe I can explain why I'm a little confused. I'm not entirely clear what variance is required or that we could even issue. I'm also a little unclear on exactly what the problem that the code enforcement office is seeing. I see there's a violation notice that was issued for an unlawful structure. It seems that the code enforcement office is implying that that's a tiny home. And then the communication from the code enforcement office seems to indicate that there's someone's living in either an RV or a tiny home, but all this stuff from you folks as the applicants indicates that you've got an RV and the RV is parked just in storage. So that's all a little confusing because it doesn't all add up.
A little confusing for us.
So if you guys, if one of you could just talk us through.
Okay.
Talking to the code enforcement before, so I'm the resident who live in front of the circle of one of the cottages, and that's my area that I park here,
Okay.
which I'm just renovating right now.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, originally they came because it's just so what I say, it's the RV, it's a recreational vehicle, just registered as DMV.
So you
It's
like,
a trailer that has license plate, it's it has wheels and it's towable, it's brought up there and it easily can be taken out.
so it's, sorry to interrupt, but so it's an RV that was purchased as a RV or a used RV that is like already an RV, like it's.
No, it was built, like it was purchased as a trailer or.
Okay, so you're building a mobile, right, you're building an RV and it's, the trailer is titled as a trailer.
Yes, it's trailer, yeah.
And it's your intention to then have it retitled as a RV once it's
It is
done.
already titled as a RV, because like I went to the DMV and made the what's it called? Registered is as a RV, like as a trailer. Well, there's no registered as a RV, and DMV can only register trailer and describe what is on top of the trailer.
Uh-huh.
So you register with RV and they register as RV, and there's recreational permanent build recreation equipment, how they call it there.
With the DMV.
With DMV, yes.
Okay.
So they registered that, and that's the only thing you can do is with RV. There is no specific by DMV.
But they must, there's like some sort of, I don't know this process.
Yeah.
So
I can
excuse my ignorance, but
Mhm.
it sounds like you go, you get some sort of registration. Then when, like if I bought a trailer and I just like built something on top of it, they don't want me to just drive that down the road.
Funny thing, they have no, like you can put, like, you can buy a trailer and put a house there or anything and transport it around. That's what the trailer for. So you can put anything there. There is the specific registration for the RVs, other reasons like for insurance. If you want to have insurance, you can register it with some kind of company, that's like a private company, and then they allow basically to just go through all the things in your house and make sure it's safe. It's not about the living in RV rather than anything else. It's
On the
more about
road.
just the insurance. It's not related to DMV at all. But the DMV doesn't have anything to do with it.
Okay, so you're building a home-built, trailer-based, whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
recreational vehicle.
Yeah, it is.
So it'll be towed behind,
Correct.
and it's your understanding that that's under the purview of the DMV, as long as you're not living in it in a place where you're not supposed to live in an RV.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, so they somehow hear that this is happening and come and issue a violation.
Yes.
And they're saying that it's an unlawful building
Yes, which is they
because it doesn't have a permit.
After we talked about,
Yeah.
I mean, that what the problem was there, they issued the violation because they thought it's a building. They didn't really check there's license plate. I don't know what's there, but when it came to them and I talked to Jerry and we together looked at the code and I just like, he knows what it is. And he's like, yes, it is a RV. Like he said that was incorrect. They said it's a building. It's not a building, it's a RV. So they already
Did you get
corrected
that?
themselves.
Do you have that written down anywhere?
I didn't have it written, unfortunately. That's what he said. Told
Okay,
me,
yeah, yeah.
and like when George was there too.
Okay.
They came. He's like, yes, that's the RV, and he confirmed it. And I asked him like, what if this thing would be anybody else's property, which is another problem that we have, which is why we're applying for variance. Would it be a problem? He said, no, that's not a problem to have it anywhere. The problem is here is he said that you're not allowed to have it here because the land is registered as vacant land. And that's what the variance is.
Okay.
So he said if the variance, or if the land wouldn't be.
So when you guys apply, because you applied for so there was a citation, then you responded to the citation by applying for a zoning permit. The zoning permit, in your understanding, was for what?
To allow to park or be there year long.
So let me jump in here a little bit. So we're organized as a homeowners association.
Yeah. The reason I'm
So-
confused is there's no permit, like I own a home and I have 10 acres of land. If I went and bought an RV and I wanted to park my RV in my backyard, I don't need a zoning permit.
Right, exactly.
So I'm confused about why, and I understand that it's a separate parcel, but I could have big,
It's not a separate parcel, it's the parcel.
well, right, there's these lots that everyone lives on and there's the 7 or whatever
It's
acres.
not really, I mean.
But either way,
But
either way, right, like if I own vacant land and I bought an RV and I wanted to park my RV on my vacant land and not live in it, I don't need a permit.
No, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to.
But
park-
where, it doesn't say that anywhere.
You have 30 days to be able to stay.
yeah, 30 days.
To stay in it,
The
but
same,
if it's
but if you're
parked
parking it
there,
off season without residing in it, it doesn't.
No, that's what he said to us. You're not allowed to park it more than 30 days in a year.
Yeah.
That's what's the
Probably his friend, same problem.
I'm dealing with that.
Uh-huh.
okay,
Procedure-
so, yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
Well, no, it's possible that, our job here is twofold. On the one hand, we entertain applications for variance.
Right.
We also sit as a Board of Appeals where we can review decisions made by the code enforcement
If we're asked.
and determine whether or not they were correct under our interpretation and understanding of what the code is. I just want to make sure, because not everybody understands those two aspects of this, and sometimes they can be
Yeah.
confusing. And, I'm not going to advise you on one way or the other, but
Because I don't understand,
hear about that.
and I think, like, honestly, I think the technical term is a MacGuffin. Like, I think the whole thing about the ownership of the parcel is a MacGuffin. It's like, it's not relevant. A MacGuffin, it's like a
Well,
movie.
the only reason we thought it was relevant
Yeah.
is that Jerry said that this is the issue, is that you cannot have park an RV on vacant land. And they considered it vacant land, and our argument is that, well, we're clustered housing.
Right.
That land belongs to all those 8 cottages,
Right,
so it's really not vacant land.
Well, and
And you see, changing some accessory structure.
the referral,
Common area, yeah.
the referral says, so then you applied for, you got the citation, then you applied for a zoning permit for something that apparently the code enforcement office told you needed was to park it for more than 30 days, you need a zoning permit. I have not myself read that anywhere in the code if it's not occupied. If someone is residing in it, you can reside in like if I had a friend who owns an RV.
Yeah.
And my friend wanted to come visit me for a month. They could park their RV in my driveway, in my backyard. They could live in it for a month. And I don't need a permit. If they want to live in it for 2 months, then our code says, well, then you have to be a campground.
Yeah.
But if you're not living in it, there's nothing that I've ever read in the code that indicates that you need any permits.
So this whole vacant land thing is just a misunderstanding, or?
Well, I think what Penn was implying is it sounds as if you're coming to us asking for a variance because you applied, there was a citation, you applied for a zoning permit, the zoning permit was denied, then you get a referral that goes to you and then to us saying, we think the code enforcement office is saying you need to apply for a variance. The code enforcement office is saying the proposal does not comply with Town of Rochester Code, section 140-23, which is campground code. So they're basically saying like, you don't meet the requirements for a campground because a campground has to be 10 acres, I think, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And also you haven't gotten a campground permit.
Right.
So what I believe the code enforcement office is implying is you need a area variance in order to obtain a campground permit.
No.
Accessory structure.
Accessory structure.
But that's not what's cited in this letter. So I think we should send a letter,
That's with the vacant land.
but
Because you're
in the referral, it doesn't say anything about accessory structure.
Which is weird.
Right. So I think there's 2 things I think we can
Oh,
do.
is that a letter we haven't seen maybe, or? is
Yeah, I
that
mean, I'll show you.
Internal letter? I don't know.
No, you should have been CC'd on it, but it's the letter from, well, can you pull it up on the screen? It's the referral. It's an app, oh, CEO determination. So this is May 31st. And this is basically in response to your zoning permit. It says attaches the determination for zoning permit 23/240. The ZBA review has been determined to apply. ZBA needs to issue a variance for your parcel at this address. Parcel is in R2 zoning, parcel is 7.8 acres. Applicant proposes permanently parking a recreational vehicle to be used as a living space. Right, but this is just what it says in their letter. Proposal does not comply with Town of Rochester Town Code section 140-23, which is the campground section of code, and would need to obtain a variance. So I think that this board should send a letter to the code enforcement office asking for a narrative of what they think is required here and why.
In clarification.
And why? Because I do not understand what variance and why they think is required. So I think we should send a letter to the code enforcement office just asking them to explain, because frankly, I'm confused.
I have the same question because like I asked before where it is in the code, it says you're not allowed to park on vacant land. Is that part of the code not accessible to public? Which
Right.
is, I can't even check it. So
Well, that's not true. So all of our code is on, if you go on.
Yeah, that's what exactly. That's
You go on-
he said there's something that's not accessible to public, so we're not able to show it, but that's what.
You need that on the website.
Well, so if you go on, the best way to find it is there's a website called eCode. You type in TOR code, you found all this.
Yes, I read it all through right.
Gary's already done.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Yeah, so this section 140.23 is about campgrounds where someone comes and parks an RV for 60 days and, wants to connect to a septic system or water.
Yeah.
Now, our case, we're only asking because it's like, it's not finished, it's not livable
Right.
there. I'm only planning, like, it's probably take me a while to finish renovation.
Yeah,
My thing is, I don't wanna keep it there for a while I'm renovating, and then I probably take it on the road.
right.
Or move somewhere else, like it's
Yeah.
not, there's no plan to live there.
Right.
Maybe I'll use this office temporarily as storage, whatever. Like I'm using this as storage for tools right now, and things, so there's a lot of stuff in there.
But that's not what you've been citing.
Yes, and we never had the conversation with this Jerry is about anybody living there. Like
Yeah.
they issued violation for construction, which is clear, there's construction, there's stable saw outside. And
Well, the citation was, for building an unlawful. structure.
yes, and I tried to talk to them first, and then they're like, I know, they had some confusion, but then after we talked in the office with Jerry, he confirmed, we were sitting one-on-one. George, me and Jerry were sitting there, like, let's talk about, this is RV. I have registration from DMV, I have this and this and this. And he looked at the code, he opened the page, and what's the definition of RV? And he replied later and was perfectly fitting the definition of RV. But I guess that thing was issued before, had a conversation maybe?
Yeah, well, this is, May 31st. Okay, so I think two things. I mean, one, we should send a letter. Sorry, did you have something?
I have,
Yeah.
maybe I missed it. The bungalows that are there now, are they associated with the property? Are they listed separately? Are they taxed on the property? They're separate. They're all separate. Each individual bungalow is separate. Okay, so if we take this book, I hate using examples like this. This is a bungalow. This is the property. This is completely separate from this. Is that my understanding?
It's a separate parcel, but
It's a separate deed.
the land surrounding it is owned collectively, but
Right, but it doesn't have structure on it.
doesn't.
It has structure, not residential, it has the barn, and has all the septic systems, and has no well.
There's no primary structure.
Each house has only 3 feet around.
There's no primary structure, but that's not what there's a citation.
I know, it's not the
Yeah.
citation. I'm curious as where this might lead us down the path of the response being, because it has no primary structure, that's why they can't store the RV.
Could be, but that's not what's in front of us.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's.
Also, that's not in the code either.
Yes.
Like, I can own vacant land and park an RV. I can't live in an RV.
Park there for 30
30
days,
days.
and then you'll get cited.
Yeah, that's not the issue, that's exactly.
Well, so I think what,
I'm personally dealing with.
I think another thing to like zoom back out from. So then what you all did is you said, okay, we got the citation, we have a zoning permit that we put in that was denied. We got this, or maybe you didn't get this referral letter, but you were told that you needed to apply for a variance, so you applied for a variance.
Yeah.
What I think Ken was trying to point out is there's another way that you can come in front of this board, which is you can say, we applied for a permit or were cited. We don't think that doesn't make sense to us, because when I look at this, which is what I hear you saying, I look at this, it doesn't make sense to me. I disagree or am confused. So I want to come to this board and say, hey, ZBA, do you agree with what I was told in the code enforcement? And we can review that and we can determine if you ask us to with an application to answer that question.
Yeah, I think.
We can't tell you that you should do that, but that is an option that exists. But
I think if you read into the code precisely, that's what it says. If the land is vacant, which it is registered as a vacant land because it's owned by association, not by a specific, you're not allowed to store RV longer than 30 days. That's what it says. So
store, where is
yeah,
it?
store, yeah.
Which section is that?
I can pull it up for you, I forget which.
Yeah,
What exactly it is, but there.
but also that I couldn't find that because I was looking for it too.
If you look up RV in the code, you can find the codified dimensions for RV.
According to the town, you can have it there for 30 days and then you have to take it out. You can't have it there again for another, a year has to go through, and then you can have it for another 30 days. You cannot store it on that property.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we should ask the code enforcement You know,
clarification on what they're saying.
we can also ask them to come to a meeting and explain it. But I think now, I think the next step is, like, I don't know what next step we can take other than getting more clarification.
Yeah, I just want to say another things, if they would confirm everything you said, like our application for variance is to allow on this specific land, because it has 8 houses and all of them owning this land around, so it's like a, almost like technically it's a residential, but on paper it is vacant. Allow to store RV there year long. That's what that.
Yeah, you want to be able to park a RV that's not being used as a residence, that is not connected to utilities, it's not connected to a septic. You just want to be able to park it there.
Exactly. That's the only thing.
Okay.
And it's not in the code.
And there should be a way, excuse me, to be able to frame it. I'm not giving you any advice, but there should be a way in which a citizen can come to the board and say, I'd like you to consider this as an appeal or in the alternative for a variance, so that we can take whatever action would be
Okay.
appropriate under the circumstance.
Yeah. So we're gonna send a letter to the code enforcement office, just asking them to explain what variance they think is needed and why, because like I said, I haven't found some of these things in the code myself, but like I very well could be missing something. This is something I do. Basically, we're volunteers basically, and they're professionals, so I don't want to act like just because I haven't understood it that it's not there. So we're going to ask them to explain their thinking. And I think that's the next step we're going to take. The other thing, and this is a small technical thing, is that it actually was in another application too, but the property owner is the homeowners association. I know two of you here are officers of the homeowners association. We just need a letter, like on homeowners association letterhead or something, saying that you authorize whoever's listed as the representative, and that could be the two of you as officers. We're here representing the homeowners. Like, and if that's how if you're here for that reason, that's fine. But you might also.
We did fill out a,
Oh, did you fill something out? Great.
Jasmine, you sent us this and. we
Oh,
did
you filled it
fill
out. We
this
just didn't have it in our file yet.
What you're asking
I think
for.
that is what we're asking for.
Let's find out before I write down what I'm supposed to.
It's just a pro forma, just so that.
Yes, I just have to scan this and
Great.
add it to your file.
Thank you. Appreciate the cooperation.
You too.
Yeah, great. This is all we need.
Okay.
Where is your RV trailer now?
It's just there. It's been there for 2 years.
So I think another thing that would be good. I go through this today. I did not say it.
No, there is no way to see it from anywhere.
The other thing that would be helpful is like, I think we're kind of trying to pursue a few different things at once. One is more understanding. You guys might want to ask us to consider whether that understanding makes sense. And we also, presuming that we're going to need a variance to be issued, or like, if we do continue going forward with this variance request, there's going to be some stuff we're going to need. So some of that is just a map that shows more precisely where you've got the RV parked. Obviously,
Yeah.
pictures would be helpful. Maybe like a letter saying that formally that no one is residing here. Maybe some paperwork from the DMV showing that it's registered. Just like all of that stuff that's like really demonstrating to us that everything you're saying is true.
Right.
Showing that,
Yeah.
it's under construction.
The more stuff like that we have in the file, if there's a variance that we determine that we do want to issue, we need to be able to have, evidence in our findings that shows that everything is accurate. Okay, does anyone
I
on the
will
board?
send your file.
Oh, okay, good.
Does anyone on the board have anything else they want to ask, either the applicant or the code enforcement office? Because we're doing both of those.
Not now, not until we find out exactly which direction we need to go with this.
Is it relevant whether or not it's still under construction?
That, you know, I asked, or the,
Relevant?
Would it become a manufacturing area? Would it become business? Would it become for sale? I mean, we can.
No, I guess it really wouldn't. I mean, just pertaining to the response of being used as a living space.
it's relevant
I
to
think
that.
that-
It's relevant, yeah.
It would show whether it's livable or not.
Right, like clearly no one's living here because it's not a finished living space.
Nothing.
But it's, if it's going to be finished, it's made for people to live in there as a recreational vehicle.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
then
not
maybe-
like a place where you want to be.
It'd be the same as building a shed and then moving it.
What's that?
It'd be the same as building a shed and then reselling the shed someplace else.
Yeah,
You
but-
still have to have rent. At that point, to build a shed, right?
It's a little unclear.
It is.
I'm just trying to get my head around what kind, if there were a variance that was being applied for, would it be time limited to the period of construction? That's where my question was going. Is
Yeah.
that a relevant issue at all? I don't know.
Well, as far as the building of it, while it's still under construction, yeah. But once it's finished and they still request to store it there, then we deal with the storage issue. It'd be two.
Yeah, I'm very unclear on what,
We were left with the understanding that the only problem was that it was on vacant land. So that's why we were saying, so basically what we're saying here is that every other citizen, taxpaying citizen in Cohasset could have an RV park on their land. And because we're clustered housing and we own the land in common, for some reason, we're not allowed that
Right, so that would be an
opportunity, and
argument
we really should be, you know? It's like-
favor of a variance that we still don't understand exactly what variance it would be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, the accessory dwelling. It's the
That would
most
be
clearest
it, right.
analogy.
right. But like, that's why we need to get more
Clarification.
code enforcement.
And then
I think
there'd be
also,
so many caveats.
You said you own one of the
I
cottages.
rent, I just.
Okay, but even just having, that would be another thing that'd be good to have documentation on, like, hey, I lease this. So like, I'm not an interloper who's a friend of someone who's building it, right? Like, that's also. And our attorney, you know, I asked the attorney about this application and you know, she was like, the first thing we gotta do is just untangle what's going on here because it's confusing. And so we've taken, I think, great strides in untangling it, but we need to get input from the code enforcement officers. Okay, anyone on the board have anything else? Ken?
Thank you for your forbearance with us.
It's very, you know, it sounds very simple and it's like the most simple thing that should be there, but it's very complicated at this point.
Okay, great. So Jasmine will follow up with you. We'll send a letter to the code enforcement, which you should probably, you can draft it, but I'll want to look at it
Yeah.
before Monday. But basically for the board, we're just gonna say, you know, if they could provide a little bit of a narrative of what happened and what specific
Qualify
variance they think is required and per what section of code. So that because we need to, if we're issuing a variance, we need to compare it to exactly the code and think about how significant it is. All of that. And we,
Justify or deny. why
doesn't
we're-
seem clear to us so far. Okay. Great. You guys have any more questions?
No, we're
Anything
as
comes up?
confused as everybody else.
All right, if anything comes up, go through Jasmine, and that's it. Great, thanks, Jasmine, thank you, guys,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay,
To be continued.
We'll be in touch.
did everyone get a chance to look at it first? Okay, so does anyone have any questions or edits?
It doesn't show up on my phone, it's not being meetings. It shows up on my phone, it's not present, lists everybody instead of present.
Yeah.
I wrote
that, that's like-
It's gotta be the format on
It is.
I was there, I swear I was there.
Layout.
Okay, anyone else have anything other than bad formatting?
One type of little thing on the meeting, on the minutes of the meeting, such as the July meeting where we denied the permit, to deny the variance.
Mhm.
I kind of made some effort to, and I think we voted in favor of this all, to have the denial without prejudice.
Mhm.
And that's important because if she comes back,
Yeah.
you know, we wanted that, I think we agreed anyway, that would be, that if she provided the information that we have,
We'll send them out.
it might have. an impact. So could you just add those three
And without prejudice.
without prejudice? Thank you.
Okay. Are you comfortable with just that verbal without us? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the May and June meetings minutes as presented. There's a second for that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstaining or opposing? Okay, so that motion carries. And then for the July minutes, I'd like to move that we adopt them with the edit that Ken just said, which was to add that the denial of the variance was without prejudice. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of adopting the July minutes with the edit we just made? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. So Jasmine, you can make that edit and then post those into our folder. Anyone have any other business?
I noticed on Google Drive, there's now a folder for like prior offenses. Is that aspirational?
I'm going to scan all of these in as soon as I get a chance and load them to that file.
Nice.
And then also,
For reference.
The ones that, so you're gonna have a separate,
yeah, so with
we're gonna go historically back.
So the thinking was both with, we've been getting a lot of fence variances and it's important, I know, to everyone on the board that we be somewhat consistent and that if we've decided things in a certain way in the past and we've considered certain things that we just do the same thing moving forward unless there's a important reason that we all agree to that we want to change that. And then the same thing with this area variance pre-app for the subdivision. I know there's been a few in the last few years where a similar situation has come up. And I just thought the board would find it helpful to be able to look at those and see what the board decided and why. Also what things, that's for the fencing, but then there's the subdivision. I know you guys had one, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Where it was a similar situation where there was 2 houses already. Yeah. So I wanted just everyone to be able to look back at that, review the minutes if you wanted to see what kinds of questions the board was asking.
One on City Hall Road and Queens Highway.
Right.
We approved that.
Yeah, and it was,
Woman, she ended up in a divorce and she wanted to subdivide her house and the studio off.
yeah.
Off it, so she could sell the studio.
Yeah.
And that was approved, I know.
Yeah. I thought it'd be relevant for us to look at that because just on an area basis, it's, you know, a significant ask, but if the board wanted us to all be able to see easily, so I asked Jasmine, she's working on that.
Yeah, on this one up on Bobby there. The house and the trailers right away.
Playways apart, yeah. Right, and the thing is like, is what did the board ask them to do, you know, make sure that we're asking for similar things, and if there were reasons why the board decided to approve it, that we can at least look at what those reasons were. And you were the only one,
Lucky I remember yesterday.
yeah, we've had turnover, and I think you weren't on the board yet. And you weren't on the board yet,
Nobody was on the board.
it's just you, that's what I thought.
Or little old me.
That's why I thought it'd be good to have it accessible, because we wouldn't have the benefit. I just wanted a verbatim recitation.
Good practice.
Meryl's know everything, she's been right there.
Yeah, he's been there the whole 11 years.
Anyone else?
Maybe 1 or 2.
And I think also, like, I think if we're having applications where we're curious, because I think this did come up a little bit in that last variance of like, have we had something like this before? And I don't think there had really been. But if there is something where we're like, has this come up before? What did we decide? One of the things that,
With the fence, we just approved one not long ago.
yeah, The
Because they-
Eisenberg,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a similar
January
situation.
2026.
But if there's things where any of us are like, have we had something like this in like the last 5 years? I think that's a reasonable timeframe. And Jasmine is very good at finding these things and
Yeah, at one point there was, somebody had done a summary, did you find it?
summary.
A summary of the applications, the area variances, whether or not they have been granted or.
Oh,
not.
that was Bruce, I think, did that.
Nicole-
last year.
When Nicole was still here, maybe?
Bruce, I think, wrote up a summary for the year that he
Oh,
presented to the town.
Yeah, I could probably find it.
Yeah.
It's very.
Sort of like this many applications and we approved this many.
And there was a little bit of detail. I'll see if you might find it helpful. And by the way, if we do that, it would be good to have it available to the public. Because the citizens should be able to come and know, in a sense, what their chances
Yeah, what
are.
their odds are.
And, well, and also argue with us if necessary about, because, they can ask us to be consistent or explain why we're not.
So right now, they can do that only through FOIA requests. We don't have that stuff posted digitally anywhere. But I think that is something, I know I'm in favor of that type of stuff being accessible online, but it's not currently. But it's not secret, you just have to request it formally.
For that.
I don't even think you would have to FOIA it. I think if someone came in and asked you, but that's not,
For applicants'
that's up
privacy,
to-
when you fill out a FOIL request, I have to send everything to Kate and then she takes out
Yes,
what
redacts
can't be public information.
there you go.
That's why it's put through the oil.
It has to be a
Action
FOIL request.
purposes.
Anyway, it's above my pay
Due
grade.
to Just privacy.
Dealt with a lot, it's paid, well, it's real paid.
Okay,
It's not that easy, not when you're the person generating the information.
Oh.
It's really not, you miss one little thing, and you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I said.
Believe I should foil a lot of
Yeah.
it.
okay, anyone got anything else before we adjourn? Okay,
I'm not gonna be here
motion
next month.
to adjourn. You're away next one?
I think so.
We need a second.
Unsure.
Well.
I'll second.
I'll second Charlie's motion. I'll rescind my original motion.
It doesn't matter. As long as we're out of here.
Charlie, give your address.